Hello, everyone. This is Baruti Carl Alexander, the Sourceseeker Hour. This is our 155th episode. Rusty, I think you were on the third episode I had
All right.
a
Congratulations
while
on
ago. So we've been
successful
doing this for
episode.
quite a while, and this is a very important show. Well, a very timely show. We're going to talk about immigration and what we should do, what should be done. It's a very prominent issue in the political sphere, and it does affect our lives because do our taxes go to help immigrants' housing? Does it go to help their Medicare, transportation? What are we going to allow? What is the proper course? That's the discussion we're going to have. And hopefully we can have some impact on the legislation that may come about because it's out there and people are trying to figure out what is the proper thing to do. Let me just give this point. This month, well, in September alone, 270,000 apprehensions of migrants, 270,000. Now, that doesn't say how many actually got through. Those were how many that were stopped. Okay. So that is a great magnitude. And you multiply that by 12, you see you got over 1 million people easily. So this is what we're dealing with. I would like us to introduce ourselves and then give your opening statement on this discussion. Rusty, you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Rusty Adams. I'm a retired educator. I was a speech pathologist and a school counselor. I also was an educational specialist working in school discipline, helping schools have equity with their discipline strategies. I've been retired now for about 6 years, but whenever Carl mentioned about the immigration issue, that's something that close to my heart because many of my friends are immigrants. And as I travel around the world and live in Thailand, I see similar issues on a worldwide basis. So I do think it's a timely topic for us to discuss.
Thank you, sir. Michelle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, hi. So I live in New York City, and I'm sure everyone has seen that there has been busloads of migrants bust from other states to New York City, which is
Would you
a
like
very
to
small.
one of those states that they come from?
All right, they're coming from the South. They're coming from Texas.
Of
The
course,
South. The
I'm in
South.
Houston.
I know who you are now. Yes. So your governor's busting them up here, all that beautiful land, and they're busting them up to New York City, an island. I was just in Manhattan, and we're like, yo, you drive a car there. Everybody's like this. If you've ever been to New York City, okay? So it's insane. Like, seriously, and we don't mind in a sense. We don't mind because this city, we got the Statue of Liberty, let's be clear. Many of us came through that island, right? So that's not the issue. The issue is how do we fairly take care of people? Because I truly, just like Rusty, I substitute teach in the largest school district, New York City DOE, and it is a beast. I like to tell people it's a beast. I'm not a school teacher by profession. I just started subbing during COVID, when the teachers were not taking their shots and all of that. I plugged in, right? And then I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. You know, the school system is interesting. It's huge. And then I started learning how complex New York City, not New York State. That's a whole other topic. New York City within New York State. New York City, the 5 boroughs, is a beast. And what's happening is even in the school systems where the babies are coming in, they can't say no. So the school system is getting migrants that are coming in with no papers, no anything, but they accept the kids. I'm in there, I see it. They don't speak English. Yeah, and what do you do? I'm not an expert on this, but I'm a human.
That's what we're going to discuss, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to look at many different avenues and possibilities and try to come up with some ideas maybe we can present to some legislatures. Dr. Wadley, will you introduce yourself and give your statement on what you see in immigration?
Dr. Cleo Wadley, 30 years, 30th year in public education. I've served as a 7th grade English teacher, assistant principal on the high school level, assistant principal at the high school level, been a principal on every level, elementary, middle, and high school. And currently I'm a central office administrator. My doctoral research is in examining hegemonic discourses surrounding Black males in K-12 schools and how they can successfully navigate those to be academically and socially successful. My statement on immigration is someone in K-12 schools who have had migrants, many students undocumented in the schools. These people, these families, these children are looking for the same things we all are looking for. They're looking for, justice. They're looking for peace. They're looking for a way to take care of their families. And they have the same fears that we do and same aspirations that we do. So my take is the root cause of this is America since the 1950s has had foreign policy to disrupt those countries in Central America, destabilizing those countries through insurrections and interfering in their civil wars and creating revolutions of duly democratically elected presidents. And as a result, we created a bunch of failed states, and we're reaping the results of that right now. Because those are failed states, there's no infrastructure to deal with crime, organized crime through the drug trade that 36% of all the cocaine consumed in the world is consumed here in the United States. So there's a ready market here that's generated by the failed states down in Central America that have no infrastructure, no institutions for dealing with the challenges there. So I think that has to be acknowledged and addressed first before we start talking about what to do about the border. And that's my opening statement.
But it still comes down to, do we as the, I guess it comes to this. At one point, do we shut down our border and say we can't take any more in? Or do we, if we take them in, we got to put them in school. We may have to provide housing, Medicare, transportation. So are we willing as Americans to burden ourselves with that extra tax to take in? We said 270,000 per month. And those are added to our roll of taxes, transportation. Maybe we have to give them a food card. Rusty, what do you believe we need to do? Is there a point we need to stop this, or just we have to bite the burden and continue to help with the migrants and their needs? What you think, Rusty?
I really, can you hear me okay, Carl?
Yeah.
Okay. I really do believe we are the land of plenty. And I don't agree with the nationalist agenda that we need to close the borders, that we need to be afraid of migrants. 50 years ago, when I just graduated from high school, I worked in a machine shop. The machine shop was full of migrants that were not here legally. And the reason I know that is they had a special code that said they would come with their loudspeaker, and if they used a certain name, everybody knew to run. And it happened one day, and everybody ran, and I was the only one there, Carl. And these were all skilled machinists that had skills that were needed in the oil field industry. So I just don't agree with the agenda of closing the border. I think it's the land of plenty. The neighborhood I grew up in was all middle-class white working. Now it is all Hispanic working. And to me, that's a good change. We need diversity. There's room for everyone. And I think the school systems can adjust if they're supported by the legislators. and not made to vilify the immigrants.
I just want to say this, the legal process for immigration, they described it as 5 months to 22 months. However, they made a point that in some cases it takes much, much longer. I think a lot of the problem is the Border Patrol is overwhelmed. And if we set that up in a better way to have a more organized process, we can fulfill all of because there's plenty of land. I know in Texas alone, there's land everywhere. So we can accommodate a whole lot more people. That is true. I agree with that. But I guess I'm listening to a lot of the sentiment that the people are saying when they say, hey, enough is enough. But you're right. This is the land of plenty, and we got so much room. So I do take that point. Sister Michelle,
Yes.
you agree with that approach?
I agree 100%. I believe that I'm from the city of greed. Like, do we need to say anymore? Come on, let's go to Wall Street. Let's the rich, the fat cats. I was just going past like, Tiffany's and Fifth Avenue just earlier to go to my doctor's appointment at 79th Street. And I'm looking and I'm just like, it's ridiculous. These people live like we don't even understand, So there's enough money. The Carnegie Halls and the JP Morgans and the Goldman Sachs, 300 West Street. I know they got so much money. Come on.
So
yes,
sounds like
we
it's
can.
A matter of organization.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to take the effort to organize this process.
Correct.
And if they would properly organize the process, we would still fulfill that land of plenty and opportunity, and we still that beacon for the world. You agree with that, Dr. Wadley?
We've done that. We've done that. Look at like the past people migrating, coming in, the Italians and the Irish coming in. They are, and the crazy part is they're sorry to say it, but in New York, they're the ones pushing back. Like, did you forget your roots? Like, you guys came over. Go watch Gang of New Yorks. You guys came over.
But Sister Michelle, if I may interject, you are getting the brunt in New York, and it's rubbing you all the wrong way. You mentioned that in the beginning, that we are sending you migrants. So you're saying us in Texas, we need to find some room for them here and not send them to you.
I say that we have enough land, and just exactly what Rusty say. We have enough land. We have enough money. It's just even our Mayor Adams, as much as he's complaining, but what he's saying, he's saying, where's the money? Where's the cash? We have it. Well, I'm not complaining. Upstate New York, they don't even want them. We're pushing them into Manhattan, into Brooklyn, into Staten Island. We have all this land upstate New York where there's nothing but woods. So he's not disagreeing. He's not complaining. He's like, just let's fund it. Let's make it happen. But then you go into these small counties upstate and they're saying, no, we don't want them up here. We don't want them up here. No, we don't want them up here.
I think
you have to look at the fact
saying in that context is it really comes down to they are being pushed to an area where the people are more socioeconomically wanting, and they can't really fight back as easily with power and their money to say, no, we don't want these people in here. In New York, inner city New York, to a certain extent, you have to accept them. Or if they came to downtown Houston, they might have to be accepted. But he's not even sending them to downtown Houston. He's sending them to another city in New York or Chicago. Have you heard of any other place they'll be sent?
Chicago,
Colorado.
Yes. Colorado's getting
yes, and it's not a coincidence. Those places are all led by Democratic leadership. So there's no coincidence, and most of those places are led by leaders of color. Black males and females that are in those places. So that's not an accident, everybody. And that goes to what my point I want to make, that the Republican Party has generated this has activated this nativist base to create a fear around these group of people where they're no longer even human anymore. As we hear the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party referring to them as illegals and animals, you know, and that kind of discourse around these people make it easy to create policies that are harmful to them, because they're seen as anti-citizens or less than people. And that's what the danger is here. Like, we would not hesitate if there were a group of Scandinavians coming to the border or a group of Norwegians. We would find miraculously land and places for them to be, because it's a horde of brown people. And also we have to remember too, it's not just people from Central America. You have people
Haiti.
from China, Bangladesh. You have people
Haiti.
from all over the world where we have these destabilized governments coming for safety reasons and asylum purposes. And we are violating international law by not giving those people asylum right now as we speak.
Absolutely.
Understood. But it still comes back to, what are we going to do about the immigration situation? Because currently it's untenable. As I said, 270,000 a month. Biden, the president, put in a plan. If I have some of the tenets of the plan, I'm gonna share, but I know he said we want to increase the amount of border patrol, increase the amount of immigration judges so that they can go through the legal process. Those were the two bigger things. And also, when it gets to a certain limit, he would temporarily close the border, and so that they could kind of reorganize things. Rusty, you're nodding your head. Do I have that somewhat right?
No, just one thing there. The bill, which is a bipartisan bill that came up. We talk about, we want bipartisanship so bad in this country. A bipartisan immigration bill was created and was about to be voted upon and passed. Until the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party said, don't do it because I want it to be a problem on the border so I can win the next election. So there's a bill out there. And so that bill you're speaking of, it doesn't close the border. But what it does do, like you said, that if people enter in a place that's where it's not a port of entry, and when that level gets to 4,000 in a 7 period a day for 7 days, then what they'll do is those people instantly get deported without a chance to claim asylum. That's what it does. It does not shut down the border.
We do have to admit, though, that the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party has gotten juice behind this particular issue. Some would say it's one of the reasons he first got elected. And now he is trying to use it to get reelected. So there's juice, and where there's juice, somebody's pouring water so that juice flows. So he's hit a chord. So there's a lot of people that they want the border to be closed. So how can that bill, I guess, get passed? Is it going to come down to the election, whether President Trump or President Biden gets elected? If President Biden gets elected, I think his bill will eventually get passed. If Trump gets elected, then something different.
Well, the problem isn't the presidency with that bill. The problem isn't the presidency with that bill. The problem
Congress
is the House specifically. You're right.
The
House
Congress
specifically. As long as there is right now a razor thin edge in the House, as long as there's a Republican-led House, that bill will not go forward.
Yeah.
Let me just say, can I just add something about?
You might be right, but I mean, there's always differences that happen. You know, like Kevin McCarthy changed from one way of looking at things to another, and that's why he got booted out of office. Rusty, what's your opinion on it?
Well, you know, I like what Biden talks about as far as union labor, and I think that we have to move our immigrants into a position where they have the same bargaining power that a union does, just like Cesar Chavez organized the farm workers in California. We need that same kind of movement where we see this as a large group of voting citizens.
Well,
And then that's when our country's
Well,
going to change.
Republicans will never
When we
go
give
for
them
that.
power.
Right.
well,
Well,
that's the
I'm just saying,
Republicans will
problem.
never
But
go for that.
that's where we have to
Because
go.
they'll never win another election.
correct.
Yeah.
And that's what they're afraid. Well, that's what the Republicans are afraid of, and they don't want them here because it's they don't want them to vote. You know how I have friends that have been here since they were 3 years old. They don't even know
Yep.
their country, but they've been here with their green card and whatever else, but they can't vote. So I always feel like, oh, we're going down to vote. And they're like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, girl, like, are you kidding me? And then we have to have the argument. Like, go get your papers right. Like, are you kidding me? I mean, those same people I'm talking about, thank God, are now citizens and they do now vote. And when I made that call in 2016, no, it was when Obama, I made that call and they were like, don't get off my phone. I can vote now. But there are people sitting here that because it's made comfortable. It's made comfortable for them to not have to go and do the next step to become a citizen, to just have their green card and just but they don't have the right to vote. They have to every year or however many years, go and get their green card again. But the main thing, and here's the thing, the Republicans love that because they don't care. They'll keep letting them come work. We'll give you work and everything. You can live here, but we don't want you to vote. We don't want you to be a actual American citizen. But you can live here because you're contributing, right? Social Security, you're paying taxes. You could work, but we don't want you to be knowledgeable and have the right to vote because and I'm sorry to cut in, the craziest part is Trump is married to an immigrant. Come on now, let's talk about that.
A European
not that it
immigrant,
matters.
though.
Right.
I know what she is, but it's just the point that she's still an immigrant.
Let me ask this, and I think
I know
this would be beneficial on all levels of this argument. If we could start instituting Spanish in schools, what do you think of the possibilities of that? There was a question or movement about that, but it really got shot down and it became the English only argument. But I think it'd be beneficial to our kids as well as our overall culture. What do you think about that being instituted in schools? And if kids start at a young age, kindergarten, by 12th grade, they could probably learn Spanish. What you think, Rusty?
Absolutely.
Well, I have to give you an example of a student I had that was a migrant in Blanco, Texas. She came to me in middle school and spoke no English, and her family spoke no English. And so she was immersed in the culture, the dominant culture, where she had to learn English. Do you know that girl ended up being the valedictorian of the high school? The potential is there.
Absolutely.
I'm a little hesitant to, I think the Spanish should be there, but I don't want there to be a second, like a second citizen kind of education. I want it to be the full deal.
The students that are already there, the American students, if they learn a second language and it becomes a standard, that's a benefit. And then there'll be more, the society be more open to welcoming of those people from Spanish-speaking countries. I believe. Dr. Wadley, what you think about that?
I don't think
Well, actually, in many school districts and schools, we have what's called dual language programs where you have
coming to you.
Yeah, you have classes where the instructions delivered in Spanish and anybody can enroll in that class. You could be a person you speak only English in your house and you can enroll your kid in the dual language program where they hear Spanish instruction all day and can learn to speak Spanish. There are programs like that in the current district where I serve and in other districts as well. It's called dual language. So that does exist in a way.
I think it needs to be more standard. Just like they took out industrial education, at least here in Texas, They took out industrial education, which is one of the worst things because you have wood shop, metal shop, home economics, all of those particular things that lead to skills, electrical work, auto mechanics, things that can get kids employed, and they don't have to go to college. Same thing with Spanish. If you if you're a Spanish speaker, that helps you get a job. You could get a job. So it needs to be much more of a standard. Sister Michelle, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Yeah, exactly what Dr. Cleo was saying. So like right down the block, I'm in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. So it's in my building, all of our literature comes in Mandarin, Polish, Spanish, and English. So my neighbor's Polish on both sides, across the hall, old school
New
Puerto
York
Rican,
is
across the street, Puerto Ricans, right? And then I said Polish, Puerto Ricans, old school Puerto Ricans. You have the Ecuadorians in there, but we say for old school Puerto Ricans, you know, they like American, you know, they're old school Puerto Ricans. But then you have the Mandarin, like the Chinese, who they're very culturally different. But right down the block, when I go and sub down the block, I'm in the class, and you know, you have the Mandarin kids. So the what we call paras are in there with the teacher. So I could be in a class with a teacher, a para. You guys are teachers, you know what I'm talking about. The paras.
we know that.
And there's kids that speak Mandarin down there, and it says dual Mandarin down there because of the neighborhood. I'm just showing you here. It's Mandarin, Chinese large. Spanish is large also. But Spanish is everywhere. Like Spanish, you know, Spanish is like, but Polish, right? Here is Polish also, and Greenpoint is nothing but Puerto Rican and Polish. Like if you know the old school Greenpoint, Brooklyn neighborhood, like you see them married, the Puerto Ricans and the Polish, which is like an interesting combination, but it's insane. It's great. It's great. So my point going back, I'm seeing it like literally. I walk into a class and they're like, "Oh, they're over there," and I'm like, "Okay." I'm assuming they're all speaking Spanish, but no, they have the head wraps. They speak Arabic. So at the table, I might have five students speaking Spanish, Arabic, Mandarin, not really Polish. They come here and they Polish, they know. Most of them come here and well, that's another topic. But yeah, at that table. And I'm like, okay, they have opened up their laptops and they're able to communicate. Do I think it's great that another language? Absolutely. Absolutely, because it's just knowing another language. I mean, you can get up and go anywhere, right? My husband always says that. I wish I knew another language. But yes, I don't think it's necessarily that people would accept if we spoke Spanish, would we accept? Because this Spain is Europe. Like, I don't think that the language itself, it's accepting people
Right.
just being human beings,
I
period.
concur.
So you're saying Spanish would not make us more accepting of them. I'm not sure if we get more of a, I guess, an openness to. That's the problem. We are so much about English first, and you know, we just want. How many times have we heard about people are in a room and the other people are speaking another language, and we tell them we don't want y'all to speak another language. We just want you to speak English because we don't want us to think you talking about us. So you have that kind of problem that's going on. But if we could get away from that, if it becomes a standard that Spanish is okay, now it's always going to be some languages that we don't understand. You're in a melting pot of all the languages or all the countries.
Patois, yes, everything.
So there's not possible to pull in every language. But if we could start with those two, I think it would work to help this immigration thing be more acceptable. Because we've all said that we are the place where it's okay that we want people to come here, and we got plenty of land. We just got to find a way to make it more acceptable, because there is a movement against
Yes.
people coming here, and it has a
Absolutely.
lot of juice and a lot of power. This
Absolutely.
is our 155th episode of the Sourceseeker Hour. Again, we've been doing this for a while. We talk about many issues. A few issues back, we talked about climate change, which is another issue. We have so many things that's going on in our community. There's never a deficit of discussion to have. So it'll always be something that we will talk about and share about. But this is one of the most important issues that's going on. And what are we going to do? Is the answer Biden's his bill? And if so, how will it ever get past the Republicans?
The same way they were against the Obamacare. Everybody was against the Obamacare, and they hated it, and it wasn't going to get passed. It was never going to get passed. It got passed. Not only did it get passed, but a lot of those people that were like, sitting, voting for the red, and they were saying this is going to help you because you're on food stamps and everything else. And they're like, no, we don't want this. We don't want this. Now they're like, oh, thank God for the Obamacare, right? They might call it something different. But I think once it gets passed and they see that it works for them as a people, as a community, that's where people become, oh, right? Because it's the same example with Obama. How long were they trying to get Obamacare? Well, this form of Obamacare into place, and the Republicans were like, thank you. And even the people that it was going to help was against it. Now they're looking over like, I don't know. I may not have to vote for the red because I got this Obamacare. Now they get it. To some of them, that's how we got Biden. They were looking like, well, I understand about this. They're gonna take away my what? Obamacare? Oh, I think I better vote. I'm not gonna tell my family, but I bet you they were the ones pushing that blue button, not telling everybody else who said they were gonna vote for the red, because they understood this was for them. When people understand that it's something that is going to help them and their family and their community, that's what we got to do. We got to be out there educating.
Interject this. There's a big, problem with, or word out that a lot of the migrants have been involved in crime. And of course, they talked about that famous incident with the young lady in Georgia, I believe it was. And that is a part of that hype and that juice. Of course, every community has some issues and so forth. And so it's not just that particular community that has issues and problems, but we have issues and problems every day here in America, or just going down the street. So, but
that incident is
that
highly,
they always use to say no, and we got enough crime and problems already. Dr. Wadley, you was gonna say?
Yeah, and that's highly racialized attack. And furthermore, research is very clear. Immigrants do crimes at a far lower level than people who already live here. So that whole diatribe about the immigrants that come here causing crime, it's a racialized lie. I mean,
and they're more likely to be victimized by crime and then not report that crime.
Right.
So it really works against the immigrant so many ways.
Yes.
Kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
It sounds like we have settled on immigration is good, and we hope we can find more ways to make it organized, to make it work. Biden has a bill. Sister Michelle said it's going to pass one day. I think as long as
got to turn the house
reelected, it has a good chance. But if he does not, then
got to turn the House and keep the Senate.
That's right.
Yeah, we don't know. Well, we've had any other comments on immigration before we go ahead, Sister Michelle.
I think exactly what Doctor's saying. We have to get out there and educate people. It doesn't have to be hard. just the main thing being the main thing. You know, I sit with my husband's family. They migrated here from Italy, and they tell stories about how when they got here, they were stripped, not stripped, but the Italian grandparents told the kids not to teach their kids how to speak Italian. So my husband doesn't speak Italian. They don't speak Italian because they wanted them to fit in, right? So they don't speak Italian. They don't speak Italian because they were the migrants, they were the immigrants, they were the, you know, they were the Mexicans. And so they were told, do not speak Italian to my kids. Don't teach them Italian. So if you start hearing other cultures and hearing the stories, it's like, wow. Back to that point, it's going and educating people, not over educating them, because sometimes it goes poof, but enough that they know this is for you. This is for you. This is going to help you. Right, doctor? Right, Rusty? That's all it is. It's for you. Look at what happened with great example, Obamacare. Just like it's for you.
As you know, we've had good things always in the past, but that doesn't always mean everybody's going to accept the good thing. And they have their reasons, especially when it comes to believing that things going to take away from the little bit that they have. If they got to pay a little bit more in taxes, they're not going to want to do it. If they may lose a little bit of property that they have, they may not want to participate in it. So that is what we are up against. And those are the two streams of thought that are happening. You got people that say, no, enough is enough. And then you have people to say we're the land of opportunity. Rusty, we at the end, your final comment and any way you want to share with how people can reach you if they want to.
Well, I do agree with Michelle that education is really important. I feel like the generations, my generation and some generations since, have forgot about that lesson on propaganda and misinformation. And we really need to re-educate people to the facts and not to the scare tactics, and to be able to recognize when there's a dog whistle that people need to realize it's a dog whistle.
Yeah.
And it's touching a nerve in people that we don't need to touch that nerve. There's this again, I'll start with what I said at the beginning. This is the land of plenty. And we have so much opportunity here, and we need to do a better job of talking about this is the land of opportunity, and that there's plenty, and there's not a reason to be scared. And I do believe organizing immigrants is an important part, so that everyone has a voice and is protected and has the same rights and privileges.
I just want to say those dog whistles are getting more and more creative, and it's harder to ascertain that they are dog whistles. You got AI. We did a show on that, and some of the things that they can do with AI is just so creative, and you won't even, it's hard to tell the difference. So shows like this and other shows try to bring attention to that, and that's all we can continue to do. We got to be more creative and promote more and say more than those who are against us. Dr. Wadley?
Yeah, my closing thought is that we have to acknowledge that America has had a role for decades of creating the problem we see right now at the border through failed policies, supporting and destabilizing, deposing democratically elected leaders in Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, and also interfering with those governments as well to stop the flow of stop communism from developing. And as a result, we've created failed states down there where there's no infrastructure for those people to make a living, to survive, to be safe. And as a result, they're flowing to our border. So this is a problem that we've created. And until those countries are stabilized, we're going to continue to have this problem that's going on. For us, the right now part of it, though, I say let's flip the House, keep the Senate, maintain the White House, and make sure that this bill can get passed where we can get some good things done. Like, for example, you mentioned making sure there's more judges and people and lawyers to help the people get through the asylum process. Let's follow international law to make sure we're giving these people asylum, which is called by the international courts. And if we do those things, I believe that'll make this problem a lot better. And it's the right and the human thing to do, because those are human beings.
Yes.
And as you know, as far as destabilizing governments, some in government think that that's our right to do, as well as the prudent thing to do. And they've always thought that. You go back to the Bay of Pigs and all the other situations, that's always been a part of it. And of course, when things go wrong and it comes back, they're not going to take no responsibility for that. Yeah. And that's just a part of our government. Yeah. That's why it comes down to who do we put in office, who's the president, and then what kind of influence that we can have in the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Supreme Court across the board, but also in our local institutions, our local offices also, mayors and governors. And, you know, in our state, in Texas, we have a governor that is sending them, he's not sending them to different patches of land, a lot of the land that Montana. We have here in Houston or in Texas. I mean, there's plenty of places that he could find to put them in and create a housing environment for them and create another situation that could be more conducive to them growing as human beings. What he did is he tried to make a political point, sent them to New York, Chicago, and places that have a Democratic mayor. And so you got that, you got those back and forth, and we always have that, and we just got to keep trying to educate people and say you should choose this way instead of this particular way. Don't have a mindset of hate or don't have a mindset of fear. Have a mindset of opportunity and creativity, and there's always a way that we can find a way to make things work. And that's what this country is about, finding a way to make things work. Michelle?
Yes. I mean, I've said all I can say other than, and I agree with everybody on this panel. What else is there to say?
I thank you. I just want to say that if we have some comments on immigration and they direct it to one of us or one of you, I will send you all those comments so that you could comment back. This is the 155th episode, and we're going to continue. We soon will be at 200, and we're going to do a whole lot of different things. I just want to mention we are working on a art and chess program for November, and we look forward to building that. I'll give you more information as it becomes more clear and more open. I thank everybody. Any final comments?
Be glad to be back for any panel that you have, sir. I love to serve.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wadley. Thank you very much, Rusty. I'll be in touch. Take care in Thailand. Sister Michelle, I'll be in touch. Thank you. This is the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm Rudy Carl Alexander. Thank you. We'll see you later.